Hello and welcome to the latest OTGP On The Go podcast. My name is Michael Bratt. It's been a couple of days since I recorded the last one, and I do apologize for that. Life got in the way. Sometimes you just have to life, and I did, and I didn't get a chance to record again, but I am now. And what a number of topics we have. Before I begin in the topics, I would like to send a shout out to a person who engaged with me on Twitter. It was the very first time that I got feedback, a Twitter comment, from somebody who obviously listened to the podcast, and I truly appreciate that. They were commenting about Joost van der Westhuizen and how they will remember him, saying he was a decent human being who made mistakes. We all make mistakes, and he should be remembered for the good things instead of the mistakes that he made. So thank you for that feedback, and I'd love to hear from you, feedback from this edition of the podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at MichaelBratt8. You can drop me an email, bratt.michael@gmail.com. Let's get into some of the topics. The Mamelodi Sundowns Orlando Pirates match. I almost got hit by somebody there. I was going round a roundabout, and they clearly don't know how to drive a roundabout. That seems to be a problem in this country, people not knowing how to drive roundabouts. I'm not even going to explain it in this podcast because apparently it's too complicated. First topic, Orlando Pirates versus Mamelodi Sundowns at Loftus in Pretoria. I'm not going to talk about the game itself. Obviously, I'm just going to say I'm very happy because I'm a Mamelodi Sundowns fan. That's the team I support in the local league, and I'm so glad that they beat Pirates by such a significant margin. But I'm going to talk about not even the aftermath. It was during the game when it was still happening. Orlando Pirates supporters were clearly very infuriated by their team's performance, and they decided to show it. They began ripping up broadcast cables, disrupting the coverage of the game. They were throwing missiles at security guards, and then they invaded the pitch. They broke seats and used them as weapons. They then fought with Mamelodi Sundowns fans who also invaded the pitch, and generally things were destroyed, people were hurt. It was absolutely disgraceful. I watched the videos on YouTube. It certainly brought the beautiful game into disrepute. What will be interesting for me is to see the punishment. Will those people involved be recognized via CCTV footage? Will they be thrown in jail? We'll have to wait and see. And the backlash for the club itself. So, will Orlando Pirates be fined? I'm pretty certain they will be. Although, for me, if a team's supporters act like they did, they should actually have points taken away from them in the league. That will discourage fans from doing what they did. I think that Orlando Pirates has too much money, and a monetary fine will be nothing. They'll just pay the fine, and that will be the end of it. If you dock points from a team, it will have more of an impact. And as I said, I'll be very interested to see whether the perpetrators are identified and charged and thrown in jail. And not just the Orlando Pirates supporters, but also the Mamelodi Sundowns supporters who also invaded the pitch because they were fighting with each other. From what I read, it was the Orlando Pirates fans who were doing the most damage, but it was a two-way fight. So I'm keen to see what the outcome of this will be. The second big story, which I would like to talk about, and it's scenes which are reminiscent of what happened at Loftus, the State of the Nation address. Basically, it was just a brawl. We had the EFF fighting security. The one thing I would say is that they were more prepared this time round. They knew what was coming, and they fought very valiantly against the security, but ultimately they were thrown out of Parliament. We then had the Democratic Alliance and other opposition parties leaving the House voluntarily, and the ANC continued with the State of the Nation address. And from what I've read, I didn't watch it live on the night. I watched some of the highlights on YouTube the day after. Jacob Zuma didn't say much of real value in his actual address. Again, it became about the fighting, and it became about the EFF disrupting and being thrown out of Parliament, and no real substance to the State of the Nation address. The one question I have, and I'm hoping you can answer me on this one, follow me on Twitter at MichaelBratt8, please send me a tweet, email bratt.michael@gmail.com. What is the purpose of what the EFF does? Yes, they disrupt Parliament and they call the president a thief and all that, but them being thrown out, yes, it causes a scene, but ultimately, what is the purpose? How is that going to help the situation? I personally don't think it helps at all. But then again, I don't think anything really helps Parliament because the ANC has a majority, and whatever they vote for, the party just votes together and it goes through. So until we get more representation from other parties in Parliament, the ANC is basically going to run the show. But what was noticeable was how military it was. We had the Defence Force, and somebody said it's the first time ever that the Defence Force has been called into Parliament. That's quite worrying, that you would have the Defence Force and the military in Parliament. There was tear gas that was sprayed. Obviously, the EFF was escorted out by the security personnel. Very worrying scenes for South Africa. I thought we were living in a democracy, and I didn't think that a democracy involved this type of scenes in Parliament. The story which I saw today, which I would like to give my thoughts on, a hunter in Modi Mole is being charged with the murder of a farm worker after he mistook the worker, he says, for a warthog. From what I read, if it's true, the hunter was being very stupid. He heard a rustling in the bushes, and without seeing what it was first, he shot. And he shot this farm worker and he killed him. Why was the farm worker in the bushes? I don't know. But the hunter should have checked what it was before shooting. If all of that is true, as was reported by the media, you never know, because facts may come out that there was a different scenario. The hunter is being charged with murder, as I said. It was originally going to be culpable homicide, but then the charge got changed to murder. I don't know much about law, but I thought that murder was intent to kill. You had to have a motive and intent, whereas culpable homicide is accidental. So if it's true that he thought it was a warthog and shot, then to me that would be culpable homicide. But we shall see how that trial unfolds and how many years he gets if found guilty, because we still have to have the court case, so he could be found innocent. But a hunter shooting a farm worker who he thought was a warthog. Sometimes I think this country is going mad. People are just going completely crazy in this country. Now, I left this last topic to the end for a specific reason. It's because I know that this is not everybody's cup of tea, and in fact, if you don't like it, then you can stop listening to the podcast now. I hope that you continue listening. But for those who don't know, I like professional wrestling. It might be hard to believe, because who likes professional wrestling these days? People don't admit that they like professional wrestling. Well, I do. And the first question that people are going to ask me is, you know it's fake, right? I'm going to respond with my statement that I always give. It is scripted. Like a TV series, like a movie, there are storylines and there are characters who go and act out those storylines. What happens in the ring, though, is very much real. Obviously, the workers protect themselves and they protect their opponents as much as they can, so that's part of the scripting element of it. But sometimes they get really hurt, and there's a lot of impact in what they do. And I like it because I respect the athleticism, I respect the drama, I respect the storytelling. So, WWE, that's the main company that I follow, they had their latest pay-per-view, which was the Elimination Chamber, and I am going to do a separate podcast on it, giving my thoughts on the entire pay-per-view and the WWE landscape at the moment. But a couple of highlights. We had a new world champion, Bray Wyatt, emerged from the Elimination Chamber as champion. I'm so happy for him. I think he has been underused for a very long time, and now it is his chance to shine. And it sets up a very interesting clash with Royal Rumble winner Randy Orton, who was in a storyline with Bray Wyatt as a family. So now you have family members facing each other. I'm going to be very keen to see how that match unfolds if Bray Wyatt gets to WrestleMania as the champion still. You never know what could happen between now and WrestleMania. The other big match you had was the Women's Championship. You had Naomi, and she beat Alexa Bliss for the Women's Championship. And again, I think she's been underused, and I'm so glad. It's her time to shine. She is very athletic. I think she's a very gifted wrestler, and I'm very happy for her. And then finally, the Tag Team Championships were on the line. American Alpha, Jason Jordan and Chad Gable, defended against every single team on SmackDown in tag team turmoil. It goes to show you how much faith WWE has in this young team, because American Alpha prevailed and successfully defended the tag titles. They could have easily given it to another tag team, and I'm very happy for American Alpha So, in fact, I'm very happy with those 3 matches. I'll give my thoughts on the other matches in a separate podcast, which I'm going to be working on tomorrow. But yes, that's the WWE fix for the day. And that's it for this edition of the On The Go podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. We had some soccer hooliganism. We had the State of the Nation address, which is hooliganism in Parliament. We had a hunter shooting a farm worker by accident. And we had some WWE. If you're interested in WWE, I am doing a separate podcast on the entire Elimination Chamber event, giving my thoughts on the storylines and just the state of SmackDown at the moment, because it was a SmackDown exclusive pay-per-view. That should be out tomorrow. For the moment, follow me on Twitter, @MichaelBratt8. Drop me an email, brat.michael@gmail.com. As I keep saying, I want this to be a two-way conversation. I don't want to just be me rattling along in the car. Thank you to the person who engaged with me on Twitter about Joos van der Westhuizen. I would love to hear your thoughts on the Orlando Pirates Sundowns mayhem at Loftus, on the State of the Nation address. Did you really think it was that bad? Did you tune in just to watch the inevitable fighting, or did you tune in to actually hear about the state of South Africa? Until the next edition, it's goodbye from me.